Moving on to the Amazon. Now, I knew who won this season before I saw it, and having seen Rob Sesternino and Jenna's gameplay on All Stars, I wasn't expecting that much from it, especially given how this would be the first battle of the sexes. But get this. After a few episodes, I found myself getting really into this season because even though it was a battle of the sexes season, surprisingly, I found myself pretty neutral in terms of who I was rooting for. Sure, I ended up strongly rooting for the men in episode 4, but that was because I felt like they were getting their butts whooped in the challenges. I'm like, get a win or two. Let's get this thing a little more even, you know? And once the switch and merge happened, the game got really turned on its head, and then it became not really about Battle of the Sexes. Granted, that's what did happen in the final 5, but I think that was more coincidence than anything else, honestly. And, the location. It was a real struggle for these people to, survive out there, and I really enjoyed seeing them go through with that. And then Rob Nino and Jenna, they actually rather impressed me. Oh, sure, Jenna complained about various stuff, but of the final two, I do feel like that she was the right choice in that she had made a little more meaningful social relationships than Matt had, and I think it's partially because of Final Twos like this that were kind of underwhelming that they expanded the format to Final 3, and I was really disappointed to see Rob Sesternino go, and shocked that he got that far. Whoa, that was a real darn surprise. So, call me a little crazy, but this season really performed. I enjoyed it. And then Per Islands, another season that I felt had a lot of good things going for it, because this game got turned on its head quite a few times, partially due to production twists, and then partially due to the networking of changing alliances that were going on here, because originally when you had the merge, it was Drake versus Morgan, and then the Outcasts decide the vote, but then you had Bert and Lil and John try and gain control of the game. Lil feels like, though, at some point that she's an outcast, and then rebels against them, and then it becomes everyone for themselves. That's nice. And then the pirate theme, rather unique, and I enjoyed it. Sure, the outcast twist and the jury stealing immunity, that stands out as an old school twist that I wish that they hadn't done, but it does fit in with the theme, so in a way I kind of have to let that go. I will admit it was a weak final two, but you have to get accustomed to that when it's old school Survivor, or prepare yourself for that if it's a final two, but barely anyone does final two anymore, if I can recall. Yeah, I can't think of an international version off the top of my head that still does it. Right. So it's an enjoyable season, but its alumni have definitely dropped it a little bit in my mind, because first two times Rupert played, you know, everybody loved him, and then in HVV he really downturned his image, and then Blood vs. Water, I think he had to be talked into doing it, because he himself had said that only way I'm going to play again is if I can give my wife a shot to do this, and spoiler alert if you haven't watched that season, when it came to the first duel, I actually wanted him to lose. Really says something. But the season itself is nice. Pretty random for an old school season. And then we've got All Stars, which, as I've said multiple times on this channel, I have a love-hate relationship with, because the game did sort of turn on its head, but it wasn't in the same way as it was for Amazon and Per Islands. Here, it was people being a lot more deceivious, or doing things that just were not as likable. Now, granted, Lex actually never had to deal with Colby, and it seemed like the idea of getting winners out, at least according to Lex and his Ask Me Anything, seemed to be more spread throughout the cast than he had, than the edit implied. So I'll forgive him for Colby at least, but then Lex being stupid enough to believe Rob, even though part of that had to do with Kathy pressuring him to vote out Jerry, who Kathy didn't trust at all, did have something to do with it, but it's just like, dude, you know? And then during this season, so many people downturned themselves, or just worse than the first time they played, like Lex, Amber, and Jenna. They weren't as likable, though Jenna's a bit of a question mark. She might have just been the same. And then you had Rob Sesternino acting like a goof. Hatch acting like a goof, except he is a goof in many situations. And if you really look into the incident, you realize that CBS really set himself up to look bad. Colby being way more negative, even though it's since come out that Jeff talked him into doing this. Honestly, Jeff. And just stuff like that. Now, granted, Boston Rob and Amber's gameplay has become normal to us, but again, this was the first time we saw something like that, so it just kind of stands out in a bad way. And given how the final two, this is, I think, the one instance of a final two where it truly did not matter at all who won, that kind of helps, but at the same time kind of hurts it, because if they break up, though odds are they're not going to break up at this point, given how they've been married for I think it's 15 years now, and they have 4 kids. Odd, I thought it was 3, but yeah, Rob and Am are going to stay together, but it does present a kind of an odd feeling with the final 2. Who knows? Maybe when I rewatch it again, because I've got it upstairs, I'll think better of it, but yeah, love-hate relationship every time. I'm gonna move again. That's what I get for doing this at a different time of day. So, moving on to Vanuatu. I used to say that this was a bad season, but I think that was just because of people complaining amongst the cast, because you definitely had a bunch of slightly younger women there compared to a couple of the other seasons, and this battle of the sexes definitely emphasized a few stereotypes amongst some of the cast members there, although what's interesting is that supposedly, according to Survivor Wiki, this is the first time where both tribes appear to be steadfastly against the more athletic people, because every time LePevy went to tribal council, they voted out one of the 4 more athletic men, and then most of the time when he had the yellow tribe, I can't pronounce that, who went to tribal, they got rid of one of the younger women, partially because the younger women kept voting each other out. They definitely did that in 3 of the tribals that they went to, so there's that little bit, and then the merge. That's a pretty interesting story that Chris went through, and how by the time you get to Final 2, he actually has a real good case for winning the game. Sure, he won a few challenges there, but I'm going to argue that it didn't matter that he won them, because in the Final Four, as long as Eliza didn't win that challenge, she was going, I think, regardless. And then the Final Three, had Twyla won that, I think she would have taken Chris. At least that's what I believe. I don't know. I've never truly looked into that. It's possible Rob's sister Nina might have addressed that topic somehow. I'm not sure. But when I rewatched this season back when I had my first channel, it was definitely better than I thought it was, so I'm confident that I'll pick this season up eventually. It has kind of been forgotten besides the Eliza, but that happens a few times, you know? Although, I wouldn't be too surprised that if I was to rewatch it again, and then I get to the end, I bet I would be arguing that Twyla should have, won, given how she was involved in the game dynamics more, but who knows, maybe I'll just say bad jury management. I don't know. That would be really interesting to do. Palau, I really enjoyed this season because it had a lot of the things that Australian Outback did. Great location, positive cast, even the bad people adding something to the season, but because they're playing the game closer to what it is right now, those strengths still hold up. Now granted, you do have an instance of one tribe decimating another, but I've always been someone who says you should really only complain about one tribe decimating another when the tribe that's being decimated is the one that you actually like more. At least that's how I view that situation. And given how it ended up being that perfect mismatch where Karor had all but one member of their tribe make the merge and only one new person joined them, in many ways we got a totally different game that was allowed to just play its normal course. So, it's a good season, and Tom, he did good. Played the old school game just fine and ended up getting the victory. Sure, the last couple of episodes with him ended up being kind of negative, but I've come to realize that I think the dynamic between him and Ian is a little more complex than what I remember. And he even said, though, during the Final Three Challenge that Ian would have his friendship after the game regardless of what he did. It was just, work this deal out and you're a lot better in my eyes at this moment. And Ian, in an Ask Me Anything that he did, states that he's actually in good relations with all kinds of people on the cast. So that's nice to hear. But there is one thing that does downgrade this season in my mind, because everyone and their dog was predicting Tom to win this game even before the season started. I would know. I was one of them. So, I gotta be honest. If you have like such a big polling for the winner even before the season starts, that hurts it a bit if you ask me. Some of you will disagree, but that's how I feel on that subject. I could cram Guatemala in here, but I'm just gonna save that for the next part. See ya.